Most people think empires die in war. They picture a final battle, burning cities, collapsed armies, one clear moment when everything falls apart. But history usually works differently. The most dangerous empires do not die when they are attacked. They die when they become too expensive to hold together. The flags still fly. The speeches still sound strong. The military still looks unmatched. But underneath that image of power, the system is already under strain. That is the part people miss. Empires rarely die with one explosion. They die with pressure, with debt, with overstretch, with too many obligations stacked on top of old promises. Rome learned this the hard way. At its peak, Rome did not collapse because one enemy suddenly became too strong. It collapsed because the machine itself became too heavy. More borders meant more soldiers meant more spending meant more pressure on the currency, more taxation, and more stress inside the system. Rome still looked massive, but underneath the size and spectacle, the economics were starting to crack. Britain followed a similar path. For a long time, Britain looked untouchable. It ruled trade routes, finance, and global sea power. But global reach is never free. Every colony, every naval commitment, every overseas obligation added more weight. And that is where decline gets dangerous. The British Empire still looked powerful long after the real cost of maintaining that power was becoming unmanageable. That is the pattern. Empires usually do not feel weak when decline begins, because on the surface, everything still looks impressive. That is why this stage is so easy to miss. The real danger begins when strength becomes too expensive to maintain. Now look at America. The dollar still dominates. The military still leads. Global markets still treat the United States as the center of the system. So the question is not whether America still looks strong. It does. The real question is this: what is the price of looking strong? How long can a superpower fund domestic promises, global security, military dominance, and geopolitical competition all at once? How much debt can a system absorb before flexibility starts to disappear? How many global responsibilities can one country carry before strategy turns into maintenance? This is where history starts to feel uncomfortable, because empires do not need to lose a war to enter decline. They only need to lose balance. They only need to reach the point where maintaining the system costs more than the system can naturally sustain. And when that happens, the collapse is rarely immediate. It is slower, messier, more psychological. Confidence weakens before control does. Trust erodes before symbols fall. The image survives longer than the structure beneath it. That is why people so often miss the moment. They wait for a dramatic ending. History usually gives them something quieter, a long period of strain, a powerful image covering a weaker foundation, a system that still looks dominant but is slowly being worn down by its own weight. And that brings us back to America. The danger is not that the system looks weak. The danger is that it may stay looking strong while the cost of holding everything together keeps rising underneath it. That is how empires die without war. Not when the world suddenly defeats them, but when the burden of holding everything together quietly becomes too much to bear.